Yes, with Studio Galaxy 473 operating from Confero. And today we on the agriculture program. And our discussion today, we challenge you, we dare you, and we want to provoke discussion. It's the poultry, Grenada Poultry takeoff. We lift off, we in the air. We believe that we have the right formula, the infrastructure in place for the poultry in Grenada to take off. Well, in fact, I believe we're in the air. We take off. And we have two brothers today with us, Joshua, as usual, and our other brother, when I forget his name right. What's his name again? What's his name?
Kayran Crosdale.
And Crosdale. I like Crosdale. So we have Joshua and Crosdale combination, and they're going to discuss the issue about the poultry take off. We're no longer on the ground. No longer on the ground. We're climbing. It's long overdue. We spend quite a lot of money importing poultry. Jamaica has been doing a better job than us. Barbados has been doing a better job than us. So now we take off. And we encourage you to share our program and subscribe. Because you know we are the new kid on the block and we need your support and assistance. The number to call is 410-3030, but you can also make your post and we'll read your post. Brother Joshua.
Good morning to everybody at home and in the diaspora and worldwide. I'm very excited this morning to be here with Mr. Crosdale. Mr. Crosdale, say good morning to the people.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. So in 2017, we had a national poultry policy passed with a number of recommendations. And since then, we've had the advent of two major poultry farms coming on stream and a medium-sized one. So this morning, I'm pleased to have Mr. Kayran Crosdale in discussion. He is the president and chief executive of Chicken Farm located in Felix Park in Crowshoe, St. Andrews. Now, Mr. Crosdale has been working on this project for several years. I will ask him a little bit about himself and about the project as we move forward. So, Mr. Crosdale, you look like a very young man to be having such a big project. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your business background. You look smooth face.
Yeah, well, I am an accountant by training from Canada. So I was born in Jamaica, went to university in Canada, where I met my wife, who's Grenadian, and she brought me here to this beautiful island. And I previously owned three different accounting offices in Canada, and I started my first firm when I was about 24 years old,
Very young.
right? Now it's been many, many years. I won't tell you how old I am, but while I might be smooth face, I am very well seasoned in terms of business acumen. I have helped many clients and customers in Canada open their own businesses, and therefore I am very skillful in the execution of business development department.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your project. It's a massive project. I've seen the project on the ground. I've seen the houses. I've seen the processing facilities and the administration office. Tell us a little bit about the project. How did you come about doing such a project? Because it looks like a lot of money is on the ground.
Well, we had the opportunity to do this project on sheer luck. On one of my trips to Grenada on the beach one afternoon, there was a gentleman listening to a talk show, and the topic of discussion was the lack of poultry in Grenada. And this is probably 15 years ago
Okay.
or thereabouts. So it came into my mind that, maybe when I'm older, and as a retirement gesture, I could get into poultry farming, since there's a lack of that in Grenada. Fast forward a few years, I decided to divest from my consulting accounting work in Canada, and we decided to use the resources to fast track the opportunity to invest in poultry, which we did. We have a 9-acre facility. At the moment, we have 5 buildings. One building is our plant where we have 60-ton cold storage room. We have a plant that can process, package, and disseminate 1,000 birds an hour. We also have a hatchery with 2 separate hatching rooms. One room can hatch about 32,000 chicks or thereabouts. Sorry, 32,000 chicks per machine. So one room has 2 machines. So that's about 64,000 capacity. We can hatch in each room, and we have a lab for testing of both the issues related to poultry in addition to other animals. We also have a lab to test for Salmonella, E. coli, Campylobacter. These are foodborne diseases before they our products essentially is the stores. We also have on site at the moment a large building which we intend to do feed in the future, and we have 2 pens built already, a third one on the way. One pen will accommodate up to 25,000 chicks, which will equate to about 130 or 140,000 pounds of meat per house.
A lot of meat. I don't want to interrupt your flow too much, but you talked about the hatchery. Now, Grenada has been suffering for many years with chicks. The chicks that we have on island currently comes in from Barbados mainly. We have a few that comes in from Miami. So the hatchery facility is going to be transformational for the poultry industry in Grenada. A quick calculation, I tell a lie, I saw the figures. You could do approximately 2.5 million day-old chicks per year, and that equates roughly, to the 40% in terms of the local market share. Not that I expect us to hit it straight away, but you have capacity. The infrastructure is there. No more flying in chicks from Barbados. I mean, it really is transformational. All I'm in awe. Thank you so much for having such a facility on island in Grenada. It's quite an investment, I'm sure. But it's gonna be transformational because day-old chicks wasn't meant to be put on an aeroplane and fly from Barbados to Grenada. I think the first few hours of the day-old chick life is the most important. Once you lose, that growth period and that rearing and nutrition of the bird, it's very hard to make it up again. The investment in terms of the hatchery, the processing facility, the growth facilities is tremendous. What about, a lot of people say, oh, how about, people in the wider poultry industry? Are they going to be involved? And if so, how?
So we developed the model that we have with keen understanding of what happens in the poultry industry in the USA, Canada, Brazil, and so forth, where no man is an island. We all go or nobody goes.
Right.
So therefore, we hope to work with the government to develop and enforce policies around enforcing the 40% market share allocated for the local farmers. Because we have the hatchery to essentially hatch all the chicks we need here in Grenada, no need for importing chicks from overseas and making losses from high mortality alone. Our goal is to take advantage of that market share by assisting farmers with chicks and feed, of course, and giving them access to our plant, whereby we can be one of two major hubs to which the wholesalers and retailers can turn to with regards to poultry products. So the farmers will essentially grow, and we will, pick up and drop off and so on, and essentially act as the trading hub for B2B sales. So the farmers will then focus on growing and developing their growing skills so that the products leaving our facilities would be comparable to that of a first world country.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. I hope that clarifies some of the questions people may have. So, as you move forward, you talk about what is known internationally as contract farming. This is the system where you have an arrangement with the processor or the aggregator, some people might say, and you have the day old chick, and you grow the birds. You're part of the aggregator's schedule. They know how your birds are doing. They probably even will be checking on your birds to see how they're doing, if it's ready, etc. And when it's ready, it's either picked up or you bring it to the aggregator's facility. You more or less collect your check, and you start your next process. So there's no worry about where am I going to sell it, what am I going to do, how long I'm going to keep it. And that is a model that works internationally all over the world, and everybody swears by it. So in many ways, the aggregator tends to have the feed mill. I know you don't have that feed mill at the moment, but so we have a system that is almost a vertical integration model, but without the feed mill. So farmers are going to be in for a treat. I mean, as you move forward and the demand is there, and it's not just a grow-out facility with the aggregator like yourself and the farmer, but the consumers have to be part of this project as well, because if they're not buying local chicken, then it puts a greater strain on the industry. So it's not just the investor, aggregator, the farmer, contract farming. The critical part of the whole project, Mr. Crossdale, I would imagine, would be the consumers. And when I talk about the consumers, I'm not just talking about people going into the shop and buy. I'm talking about the linkage with tourism, hotels, etc., restaurants, the whole connection, the state institutions, etc. Do you have any thoughts in terms of how the state institutions might help, or the hotels might help, etc.? Any views on those things?
Yeah, we are hopeful that we can work with all government bodies, hospitals, schools. For example, the school feeding program, where at the moment students are not getting the correct amount of protein required, and this was a study done by the World Food Program recently. We intend to alleviate that concern by providing schools, for example, with poultry products that will not only meet the needs of the protein requirement, but also at an affordable rate. Partnering with institutions such as the government and hotel association and so on, that will help us to to get the products moving and have a good turnover rate. And hopefully we can have such economies of scale whereby the pricing of locally produced meat is not that much different than the imported meat. The only caveat to that is locals will now have a healthier option at a cheaper rate.
Yeah. Okay, that's wonderful. Now, one of the things that I hear quite a lot is that locals must have cheap back and neck and all the rest of it. And when I hear that, I'm thinking, that doesn't sound right to me. I think locals should be eating good quality breast and leg and thighs. I'm not sure about this argument I often hear, and I certainly don't want the school feeding program to be for back and neck to be dumped on them. I want them to have breasts. I want them to have chicken legs, quality protein meat. They need it, growing bodies need good quality protein. I like a little back and neck. Like most Grenadian, I like to suck on my bone a little bit, but chicken, breast is best. And there's so many different ways to use chicken, especially the breast. And if it's done right in terms of, we have a situation where chicken products comes in quite often into Grenada and comes in below the cost of production. And when that happens, that whole system is designed really to really, damage or destroy the local industry. Has government said anything about leveling the playing field to you so that you could be operating on a level playing field instead of what's happening at the moment where the duties are so low in Grenada compared to, say, like Barbados, where the duties tend to be about 182%. I know our highest duty rate is about 40% on breast. Is there anything going to be done in terms of the regulation to level the playing field so you could be competing on a level playing field? Because at the moment, the system is geared towards import. It's not geared to local production, local employment, money circulating. And I think many people who look at the current system, they see it as a tragedy that our legislations, regulations are geared towards import and not local production. I know I said a lot, but you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the things we've done, we have proposed two legislative changes to the government bodies. One is to require a license to anyone who wish to import a poultry. What that does is it helps you to track who brings in what and at what pricing. Second thing we've done is, the second law that we proposed is that to help us to enforce the 40% allocation in the poultry policy, we propose that the large importers, or all importers of that matter, have to get a permit to import. For example, if they ask to import 100,000 pounds, they get a permit for the 60,000 pounds without questions. But the other 40,000 pounds, they would need confirmation that none of the large producers on the island is able to meet that demand at a certain price, and therefore they would get the permit for the 100% that they deemed that they would like to import. Now, if the local importers, meaning my farm or the other farms, are able to meet that demand, therefore the 40% will be shared amongst the farmers who are part of the program, and then the permit is then given to the 60% that the importer would like. If the importer wishes to ignore such requirements, then consequences will follow. Example, seizure, additional taxes, and so on. That way it gives us the farmers in Grenada the opportunity to operate on a level playing field whereby you're not competing with chicken that's 2 to 3 years old, coming in at $1 a container or something like that. That's just an arbitrary number. It's not necessarily the price.
No,
But
no, yeah, I get the point you're making. Yeah. That has really been a real issue in terms of Grenada. We have great goals, great vision to have a local industry. But then anybody who's doing research into the industry, the first thing they will see is that the Grenadian farmers, investors, etc., their hands are tied behind their back because they're operating on a playing field that is not level. So we have no anti-competitive legislation currently in Grenada to prevent dumping taking place. And we've known that for many years. Nevertheless, nothing has happened. We have what's known as 100% bound rate. That 100% is duties that can be levied on importation. Now, that's been available to Grenada for a number of years. One of the reasons that it has not been implemented, I'm told by the previous ministers of trade, is that we didn't have the capacity, so they couldn't implement it. Whereas now we have more than the capacity to implement it. So, do you know if government is going to implement this tariff? Have they indicated anything? Or is there a deafening silence going on?
So we have engaged the ministries responsible for making these decisions. We're still waiting for feedback from them on these points. We have shared with them the proposed laws that we wanted to be passed to help the farmers to go ahead and be successful in this industry. However, we've not had the time to sit down to discuss the specifics around implementation and the dates and time when such laws will be passed, if at all.
Yeah. I know at one point the current prime minister was very much interested in the poultry industry, and he was one of the investors, I believe, in excellent farms. So he has some insight in terms of what the industry needs, and what the industry needs, it needs now, not tomorrow, not in the future. It needs it now. I mean, I'm going to talk personally. I mean, I've been to your farm, I've seen it. When I look at it, I said there's at least 30 or 40 million of investment on the ground. As a Caribbean investor, a CARICOM investor, as a national, your wife is, and you're probably a national as well, we have a responsibility to ensure that we have an enabling environment that allows you and the other farmers to thrive. Now, the regulations are so important because it also impacts on Caribbean Agro and the feed, because a lot of people say, oh, the agreement with Caribbean Agro says that you'll have the feed mill and flour mill, they will have the feed mill and flour mill, and then in return they will develop the local livestock industry. But the agreement says more than that. The agreement says that government will implement the tariffs and the duties to enable to enable an environment that is conducive to a poultry industry. And part of that government was supposed to do was to implement the bound rate and various tariffs, etc., to make sure that our industry was in a competitive position. And that is the part that a lot of people are not aware of, because what we tend to do is pass on half information. So government has a duty, based on the reading that I've read of the agreement, to put that in place. And so they argue quite often, well, government hasn't put that in place to enable a thriving poultry industry. So you can't hold us accountable. You have to hold your government accountable for not putting the enabling environment in place. I mean, that's my understanding, having read the agreement back and forth and discussed it and all the rest of it. Have you come across anything like that in terms of your research? Because I would imagine you would have lawyers on the case, and that among the investment, you can't not have lawyers. You would have had to have read the agreement, or your lawyers would have done, and be conversant with it, because a lot of the times what I hear about the agreement, it tends to be hearsay. So what's your take on that?
So I have gone through the agreements with ADM Caribbean Agro. I have also obtained legal opinions.
I thought you would.
So in that case, you are definitely right, and we do have a team of lawyers that we work with that advise us on these things. We want to pass on whatever savings we can to the consumers, right? And 70% of our cost is feed, and this is the driving factor behind us deciding to eventually have a feed mill down the road. Now, with regards to current feed prices, we're not at liberty to say what should be charged, how much, and what have you, because it's a private company. But what we do know for a certain level of certainty is that without the cost of feed coming down, the consumer is at the mercy of ADM.
Yeah. But you say it's a private company, but my take on the company, according to the late Colin Powell, it's a welfare company, because they receive 2 million in terms of concessions every year, and that concessions that they receive often goes out of Grenada to other islands. So it's essentially a welfare company that is dependent on the people of Grenada to subsidize it. Now, one would think, if you've been subsidized to the tune, and I said 2 million, pulling that out of my head, it varies depending on the amount that they bring in. So the last time I checked, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, it was 2 million. But they get enormous amount of concession, and the view would be that those concession is passed on to the local producer. Being part of the discussions in terms of the agreement, and also talking to the leaders who formulated the agreement as well. Caribbean Agro had the flour mill and the feed mill, so that essentially you could have an industry, a livestock industry, or certainly a poultry industry, where you could give away the feed free based on the profit of the flour and the parts that you use from the flour, the leftover parts. On the main, it's accepted that 30 or 40% of the flour waste is used in the formula to make feed. And during the consultation in terms of the national poultry policy, Caribbean Agro made a commitment to reduce feed prices by 25 or 30%. And I often say, why are we fighting about feed prices? Why doesn't the government simply enforce or kind of encourage that commitment to become a reality? So the infrastructure are there in place, and I think there's no better time. We need it now. We need a reduction in feed prices if we're going to make our local investors competitive. It's not rocket science. Everybody who's doing poultry over the world know between 60 and 70% of the input of poultry is feed. It really is not rocket science. So Mr. Crossdale, I mean, listening to you, I'm enthused, I'm encouraged, etc. But also, I hope that there is some people in agro who have a nationalistic approach and want to help Grenada develop, because Grenada certainly helps Caribbean agro make good profit. The people in Grenada, poultry farmers, etc., they all contribute. So why can't we all be winners? That is the point. We have an opportunity where we can all be winners.
Josh, if I may, it's easy to get bogged down in the details with regards to pricing. Um, so, from my understanding, wheat is not a significant portion of chicken feed or any animal feed. The larger component is
Corn.
corn and soy. Now, because of this, I can't say with any level of certainty, not having knowledge of Caribbean agro internal policies,
Yeah.
what the price should be.
Yeah.
However, I have compared their pricing to others. Doesn't compare that bad, but I don't know, the quality of the other ingredients that they include.
Yeah. But Caribbean Agro was the ones, the manager who said that feed prices can go down because of the input from the flour by 25 to 30%. I'm repeating what they said. I'm not making that up. I can be held accountable for that. Certainly that is also in the policy. And that is not disputed in the policy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the lack of implementation, that sometimes we need to kind of speed up a little bit in terms of that. Okay, so as you said, we don't want to get bogged down because the feed is a really thorny subject for so many, and it's emotive and it brings out passion, as you were hearing from me. Now, in terms of the products that you would be exposing us to, tell us a little bit about, the products, your cuts, etc., that we'll be getting, because a lot of people tend to shout and say, oh, we don't have the standards, the quality, but your place is a state of the art.
Yeah, so we have a very extensive product line. Before we even get to the meat, we have boiler chicks,
Right.
Ross 308 or Cob 5s. So we can do either. We have layer chicks. These are day-old chicks, by the way. H&M Brown and so on. Because we work with two different breeder farms, we have a variety of breeds that we can supply to the local farmers if they wish to. So the old chicks, and then we have the egg trays. We have significant amount of egg trays, the 30-pack egg trays.
Oh, wonderful, because a few farmers were asking me for egg trays.
Yes, we do have egg trays.
Wonderful, I'll tell her.
Price is pretty reasonable.
Uh-huh.
And outside of that, we have a veterinarian and staff. We will charge a fee, of course. He is willing to come out to any poultry farm who has issues. He has the ability to write prescriptions and so on, which also we can supply that to the farms. Because I know one of the issues we have on the island is high mortality of certain chicken types.
Yeah.
But the inability of the local veterinarians to diagnose the issues and come up with a solution that has been, a contributing factor to some of the farmers having significant losses. So that's one of the product lines we're also offering to farmers, having our vet available.
Yeah.
So outside of that, we also now have the meat. You can buy whole chicken just on package. You can do your own cut-ups and so on. We also have whole chicken packaged. We will be doing a surprise sale for Christmas.
Okay.
I won't tell you what that is yet. But
Yeah, we look forward to that.
stay tuned, right? I believe it's something the consumers will love and will be well received. have 5 and 10 pound bags of breast that is boneless or bone in, 5 or 10 pound bags of gizzard, the chicken feet, the neck. We have leg quarters. We have bone-in thighs, boneless thighs. We have drumsticks. We have wing. We have a significant line of product that is packaged and cut up and ready to go, ready to be sold. Actually, it's just a matter of what your pricing is in your respective stores. You get the package, you stock them, and you stick a price on it, and it's ready for sale. There's no need for hiring butchers or anything of that sort for secondary processing.
Right, right.
So that's some of the things that we're rolling out. We do have other products that it's more or less specific to farmers. Example, hidden lamps and so on. But that's not the majority of what we will be doing.
Yeah. It sounds excellent. Absolutely excellent. I mean, I messed up a little this morning because I should have gotten some of your packaging so that I could show the viewers what the packaging looked like. But it was very nice listening to the fact that you have specialists in terms of veterinary specialists, because we tend to have generic veterinary personnel deal with everything. But from what you're saying, you have specialists in terms of poultry, which will make a big difference in terms of isolating and determine what causation is. So that is absolutely excellent. And your packaging and breakdown in terms of the poultry parts, it's absolutely wonderful. You're doing bulk, and you're doing. Are you selling it like in 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, or 5 pound and 10 pounds? Tell us.
Yeah. So in addition to the 5 and 10 pound bags of products, we also have we will also have the 1 pound and the 3 pound foam trays of the same products. Breasts, wing, leg, thighs, leg quarters, and so on. So it's 1, 3, 5, and 10 pounds.
Right,
So
right.
the 1 and the 3 pounds will mostly go to the smaller retailers who are just moving a couple birds in the local shops, and then the larger quantities, hotels, schools, and restaurants, and so on.
Yeah.
The guy on the barbecue.
Yeah. So, Mr. Crosdale, it sounds as though you intend to make Grenada healthier than what it currently is, because I've often seen the practice of people having a box of chicken, throwing it down on the ground, trying to break it apart, pulling it apart, and putting it in plastic bags. So, you intend to stop all of that?
Yeah, when we look at people doing that, you raise the risk of contamination, foodborne
All the
illnesses,
pathogens.
right? Sometimes gastro is going around in Ireland, and that could be a very simple reason why. The chicken was contaminated in that shop, and all
And
of
you
a
don't
sudden,
know.
the whole community is right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
with our prepackaged poultry, there's no need to secondary handling.
Yeah.
Essentially, price per pound. Okay, this was a 1 pound pack. This is a 2 pound pack. And
Yeah.
it's done.
Yeah, you should be given them a medal for World Health or Grenada Health and Safety. I hope people see or understand the progress that you're talking about, because that's been an issue around in terms of food safety for a number of years in various kind of discussions in the ministry. So that's going to be an advancement for Grenada as a whole moving forward. And we're a small developing country, and bit by bit we're going to get there. But that is quite significant in terms of food safety that you're talking about. And I welcome it, and I'm sure the shopkeepers and general public will welcome it, because it means less work for them, because they have to employ somebody to chewing that chicken down and and repackaging it, and keeping it away from all the pathogens that's in the air that can get into it, etc. And hand washing and all those things. So you're taking all of that away. You're also stopping us from flying chicks from Barbados by being able to give us day-old chicks. But you do layers as well?
Yeah, so we have a hatchery system that's it's quite dynamic actually. We can hatch poultry and turkeys and pigeons and so on. It's
Wow.
just a matter of the programming of the computer.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, the journey from Barbados or even Miami for day-old chicks is pretty stressful. And it gets worse with the unreliability of Caribbean Airlines, with flight delays, flight
Yeah.
cancellations, and so on.
Cancellation.
Um,
It's
and, and,
killer.
and assuming these chicks were hatched yesterday,
Uh-huh.
by the time they get to your farm, they're 2 or 3 days without feed or water. As a farmer, I can tell you, you're already behind in terms of weight, because,
In terms of growth.
right? Because if you don't have those chicks market weight by at least day 40, your losses are already starting to pile up. So we are helping the farmers to minimize losses in terms of mortality and growth by having the chicks hatch here in Grenada, and they get picked up day one, meaning in less than 12 hours of being hatched. These chicks can be having feed and water and growing at a very fast rate.
Yeah, and your technical support with the veterinarian is absolutely wonderful, because I often get calls, people wanting support in terms of the chick they're dying or this or that. And obviously, I don't have a technical background, but I try to link them up with whoever I can. So that's going to be absolutely wonderful, because the despair of the farmer, sometimes people don't understand that a small farmer doing like 200 birds, if they have a problem with 100 birds, they're out of business more or less. So that is a wonderful something. So you're going to be doing turkeys as well, so we could develop our turkey industry. What about duck?
Yes, our machine can do ducks as well.
Ah,
Ducks, geese. I mean, it's all about the programming, right?
well, we're not eating pigeon though. We're not going to do pigeon.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I hope not. Um, but yeah, we will have on site 75,000 birds, plus there might be another 50,000 birds in the hatchery.
Whoa,
So
that's 125,000
that's
in just
120 on just one, right? So
one site.
for us not to have a specialized veterinarian, it's very risky. We need to be able to identify issues quickly and solve them quickly, because to have 25,000 birds die on you is not cheap.
No, it's not cheap.
So therefore, we would not risk not having a specialist. However, we don't want to be that kind of company. We want to share our resources, and this is why we're making the our vet available
Yeah.
to local farmers, so that the consumer can benefit in that. If the farmers don't incur higher losses, they will not pass on those higher costs to
Yeah.
the local consumers. And therefore, we're hopeful that we can be a pillar on which the local poultry industry can really stand on, because at the end of the day, in this industry, no man is an island. We all need each other. As I mentioned earlier, either we all go or nobody goes.
Yeah. But it's really transformational listening to you. You're talking about hatching on island, you're talking about packaging, you're talking about food safety, you're talking about competitive pricing, you're talking about being nice to Caribbean agro. It's transformational. The least we can do as a society or a nation is to ensure that we collaborate with you. I really think that the government should start by ensuring that all state institutions use local poultry, with the two major farms being up and flying. We no longer waiting to take off, we take off. Because I was speaking to a member of your staff recently, and they told me you had about 20,000 eggs in your hatchery.
Correction, almost 35,000.
35,000. Oh, I've been misled.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have both layers and boilers at the moment. We do have a sale going on. We posted it on our Facebook and
Do you have a number where they can call?
Instagram. Yeah, the number is 444-4243.
Okay, say it slower.
444 4243. That's the number for our farm. You can also send us a WhatsApp message. You can also place orders online. Info at chickinfarm.com. You can also place an order via our website, chickinfarm.com. That's CHICKINNFARM.com. There's I'll get a quote feature on the website where you can send us a message from the website directly. So farmers can send us orders for day-old chicks. We have a hash date right now for October 14th.
Okay, wonderful.
We expect about 30,000 chicks or so, thereabouts. And when we're expecting, which we've already gotten a few orders, we're expecting the chicks to be sold out, if not this week, before the hatch date.
Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. Can people come to your farm?
Yes and no. You can always visit the farm, but you may not be able to walk around the facilities due to biosecurity. But you can visit the main office and have a chat with one of our
Yeah,
staff.
because I was being told by one of your staff that biosecurity is going to be strictly enforced and day-old chicks will be delivered. You are going to discourage people from coming. Is that right, or am I misled again?
Yes and no. So the day-old chicks, while we can deliver, we prefer not to, because we want you to be able to inspect the chicks to confirm their health status before they leave our facilities. Because once they leave your facilities, they're your responsibility. Now, for us to deliver, then we're placing that responsibility on the delivery driver and so on, which we don't want to do. However, the option is there for delivery, but we prefer not to.
Right.
We prefer you pick up. We do have a shipping area where.
But if you had 50,000 chicks that somebody had ordered, I would imagine you probably want to deliver.
No, that large of a quantity, we would say we would prefer the customer to pick up.
Right, because you would need some kind of specialist kind of trucks or something to.
Yeah, well, we do have a truck like that, but we use it for our own use.
Okay.
Right. So if the customer is unable to get a vehicle and so on, then we will accommodate.
Right,
But
right.
it's not our preference.
And collaboration in the industry, because there's excellent farms, and I know you knew the previous owner of Kobe. I can't Family Farms.
Family farms, yes.
Yeah. What's your take on collaboration? Because a lot of people think if you're in the same business, you have to be shooting each other.
So when I studied in Atlanta, University of Georgia, Poultry Science Department, we found out that many of the studies that were being done at the university is funded by multiple competitors in the poultry industry, similar to Jamaica, Trinidad, and so on. The poultry industry is an industry where either we all go together or nobody goes. So no one is an island. We have to all work together. Otherwise, the whole industry would just be stagnant. Therefore, it is my view that all poultry farmers are my friends. There are, of course, competitive issues that but the major issues should be a collaborative effort where we all work together to achieve a common goal, and that common goal is poultry independence.
Yeah.
Yes, gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes more, and we want to encourage individuals to share our program. And you can also post or pick up the telephone and call. The number to call is 410-3030. Gentlemen, I get the impression, listening to you all, that you all are worried about the market. You have 40% guarantee market. Would you wait at what time you expect to satisfy that 40%?
Well, at the moment, we have the infrastructure built to achieve this 40% market share that's been allocated
So in about a 1 year, 2 years, you could do that?
within 6 months.
Right.
If the government deems it so, we can have this within 6 months because we have two very large plants ready to process and package. All we would need really is the other farmers, to come on board and order the day-old chicks, which we can hatch right here in Grenada.
Right. So in 6 months to a year, you expect that that 40% market will be absorbed by you all.
Yes,
You all also involved in distribution of poultry.
right.
Right. And what's about satellite farm? Do you have dream of having any satellite farms as a result of it?
Satellite
Because
farming.
Contract.
you produce eggs, you produce this. Do you know whatever working in collaboration with other farms?
Yes, no, we have to work together with contract farmers because neither my farm or the other large farm can grow enough chicken to supply the whole of Grenada. So we need the other farmers to come on board. This is why we have the hatchery already available for supplying them with the day-old chicks, and Agro will obviously supply the feed. And then at the end of the growing period, they will bring their meat to our facilities to get processed.
Are you all in discussion with the importers? Because there are not very many importers in Grenada.
There are not many very importers in Grenada. No, we already have letters of intent from Country Cold Stores, which is one of the largest importers. Quality meat, we've not been able to make contact. We've tried a few times, but not yet. Outside of those two large importers, there's not that many large importers, but they're mostly importing frozen meats, like a year or so old, could be older, I'm not sure. But Country Cold, it seems like they're interested in working with us.
Because it is important in a small market like ours. We seems like a big market, but once you have two big operators, it becomes a small market.
That's right.
And you have very few importers, two or three or four. So 40% have been guaranteed for the farmers, but you all could meet that 40% in 1 year.
Correct.
So the question now is a question of price. If the price is competitive, the farmers will gravitate towards you. The consumers will gravitate.
Yes.
If the price is not competitive, the consumer will stay with the old traditional.
Yes.
So you must have some dialogue.
Yes.
I think there's been dialogue ongoing through the Ministry of Trade with the importers, and also agriculture. I've been involved in a lot of.
And you all are not doing frozen. At this point in time, you're not offering frozen meat.
Frozen meaning
As how the importers buy it from Brazil and other countries.
no, because of the journey, they have to freeze it. I think at like -30 or something like that. We will not be going that far.
So it's not necessary for them to buy because they buy it here.
Exactly. So we do have a 60-ton walk-in freezer, which we can keep at various temperatures. So we will have frozen fresh, but not like the -30 that requires half a
You
day.
see, when we buy the meat from the importers, we get it in box, but we have to break it.
Yes, yes,
Small shops cannot wait, and it's not good to wait.
no,
If you wait, you're more likely to expose to deterioration.
that's right, and miss sales.
So you break it one time and packet it. So the time system involved minimizes contamination.
That's right, that's
The
right.
question here now is how easy it is for the people who've been importing meat to buy from the locals. How
Well,
easy it is to buy from you.
well, we are really a phone call away.
Now, in terms of the facilities, do they have to make adjustment to the facilities to accommodate the fact that you are not selling frozen meat?
Well, the importers, they may not be, because we have our own freezer. So essentially, from our freezer to their truck to their customers, or it could be from our freezer to their freezer. Now, the -30 is because of the age, really. and it's not fresh. So for us to get into the frozen, we would have to stay below minus 15, I believe. So we can do a minus 10 or something like that. But in regards to making changes to their systems, I don't know what their internal policies are in terms of storage. But if they say to us, whatever meat we pick up has to be, minus 20, for example, we can accommodate that. No
You
problem.
see, these things are important
Yeah,
because we're asking about legislation.
right.
And these importers are going to fight back if they believe it will have an additional cost for them. And yes, the consumer might tell you, I eating this frozen meat for a lot of years, I ain't dead. So they may well want to continue eating the frozen meat if it's easier. We speak a lot about feed, but automatically because we have this massive increase in consumption, that means the company will have to produce more food.
Yes.
That could contribute to the price dropping. Shouldn't able to contribute to the price dropping?
Could be. I mean, we don't know for sure because we don't work at Caribbean Agro.
One of the arguments Caribbean Agro advanced many years ago, and they challenge you, they say if you could buy, I can't remember the figure now, X amount of feed, we will drop the price. But the Grenada livestock industry, the livestock farm, were not able to consume that quantity of feed.
Right.
So now you have a massive increase in consumption. That argument would go through that too.
That's right.
Because it was an argument, the ministry is supposed to be aware of the argument.
Yeah, customs and the ministry are fully aware that argument is fallacious. What they found was that Caribbean Agro was essentially selling feed container load, maybe 2 container load a year to a buyer at $25 a bag. So when you look at the amount of feed that the local farmers buy, it far outweigh that couple of containers. There's been a lot of kind of stuff that's been around that has subsequently been found to be untrue.
Caribbean Agro is selling feed to foreigners.
Yes, to other,
We have to stop saying foreigners, CARICOM people. We are one CARICOM people.
yeah,
And I don't even like to use the word
Yeah.
foreigners. It should be automatic. But they are selling feed there by the container load. So why the farmer don't buy by the container load?
yeah.
Well, depending on your usage, it's not recommended to have feed stored more than a week.
Because you would be using almost a container load.
No,
Several.
10 container loads for one house.
That's the point.
One house.
So the argument that we been selling feed to other countries at a cheaper price because of the quantity goes automatically out of the door.
Yeah,
And you will be able to buy that feed
Yeah.
at the price that is selling it to the others.
that's
Automatically.
that argument's been debunked by the
We have made a lot of noise about quality of feed years ago. And Caribbean Agro going to challenge you on that if you cannot get a reputable lab to test the quality in terms of comparability.
Yeah, agro feed.
So I have always encouraged farmers to abandon this issue about quality of feed if you're not able to take on Caribbean. Because I can see the quality, but I don't have the
Yeah.
lab.
There's different formulas, that's all. But before we go, we have very little time left. Kayran, I just want to ask you, is there any incentives, because we in that budget cycle at the moment, is there any incentive that government can kind of help with in terms of your industry?
Yeah, we have a significant amount of inputs. If we can get those duty free, that would be a big help in terms of passing on savings to the local consumer.
Okay, tell us those inputs, one or two.
I mean, feed is a big one. We have the vaccines. We have the hatching eggs coming in. We have the
Okay.
packaging and so on.
Okay.
If those inputs can be duty free, then the consumers will be in for a nice competitive pricing.
Well, that's Roundup. We're almost ready to round up. But government provide concession for farmers on agriculture issues. So the questions are vaccine, the questions are equipment for birds, automatically falls under agriculture products, and farmers should get 100% concession in it. That means your area will have to work with the extension officer because the extension officer have to guarantee that they even fence in wire. If you choose to fence your 9 acres of land for the purpose, and these concessions have been there for years, decades, you can get concession on it, you know?
So, Kayran,
Yeah, let us give you the last word. Let's give Kayran the last word and program.
First, let me just say thank you so much for agreeing to come. We way up where Mr. Pierre said Confero. So you know, close us down.
Well, thank you for having me and allowing me to share my dreams with you guys. Again, the idea behind the project is really to move Grenada forward. Grenada not have a seat at the Caribbean Poultry Association for many years in terms of production. We have now the ability to stand up and say, hey, look, we can produce poultry at a competitive price and feed our locals just as much as the Jamaicas, the St. Lucias, the Barbados, and Trinidad, and so on. And now, all we need is just for the powers that be to come on board and support us in our endeavor to acquire, 100% poultry self-sufficiency.
Wonderful. I think the power that be will come on board. We need a video from you so that we could publicize this a bit better.
Yes, we want to thank our brother in the poultry industry, and we are convinced that we're going to take off. It's not a question of if we take off. It's not a question of if or when, because that level of investment and production, definitely. I'm not too worried about the market. Over a period of time, we'll consume it. And I also hope that you're dreaming about exporting, because I think that's where we're at. Once again, we want to thank our brother Josh and Crosdale. And we are one CARICOM people. We have to develop the culture and get it that we in CARICOM are one people. And the governments have signed for freedom of movements now. So they can ask you how long you stay here again. You have that freedom of movement. So our people on the ground must understand. This is not about just Grenada, Jamaica, Trinidad. We are one CARICOM people. Thank you very much. And once again, we encourage you to share our program and talk about it. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.